join us in the audience. I welcome our next speaker onto stage. This session is going to be on making OOH metrics count. Our speaker right now has led sales and marketing for Clear Channel Spectacolor, the Times Square division of Clear Channel, and also led media analytics for transit media operator Firefly. Coming all the way from New York City, ladies and gentlemen, Chief Revenue Officer, StreetMetrics. Put your hands together for Michael Steinberg. A loud round of applause, make it much louder. He's made it here, and we're so happy you're here, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me all right? Sounds like you can. All right. So before I start, I want to thank VJ Media Works for the invitation, for having me here. I've been to a lot of conferences in my time, and I have to say you guys have put on an amazing conference. Vasant, Rajiv, Savwana, and Nimi, thank you so much for having me. And thank you. So today I'm going to talk about making out-of-home metrics count. And as I go through this, I'd like for you to think about it in two different ways. How does it help your individual business? And then how, as your industry in total, how does it help the industry? As we go through this, please look at it under that light. So we're going to get on. So for us to know where we need to go and where we're headed, we do have to look back at where we've been. And so when I started in out-of-home, and I think you'll hear people say this, location, location, location. Where can I find the number one place to put a sign where it's going to reach the most amount of people possible? And that served us really well. It served us well for quite some time. This one-to-many mantra that outdoor has been able to produce. But as advertisers have changed their tune, wanting more metrics, wanting more results, performance, we've had to adapt. And for us to adapt, we've had to look at audiences. We've had to look at who are we reaching, how many times are we reaching them, and is it effective? And for that, then, right, this one-to-many ethos or mantra that we've had isn't really serving us the same way it used to. And so, as advertisers are unlocking their budgets, they're unlocking their budgets and providing more money to out-of-home when we can start to show results. And so the thing we need to really look at is we need to measure and attribute audience's exposure and the behavior as a result. And when we do that, we're going to be able to grow our pot. So once again, we need to measure and attribute how audiences behave as a result of exposure. And the end is performance as a result of that. So what's moving us towards performance? Well, first off, brands and agencies are pushing operators for deeper insights. They want to understand how effective our medium is. And on the other side, as an operator, the supply side, we want to prove how effective our media is. With those two coming together, what we really lead to is performance and being able to establish our medium past this 4%, 5% that exists currently around the world. It's all based around performance. And so performance here for us, two things. One, reconciliation, which is media delivery measurement, and then outcome measurement, which is the effectiveness of did we move the needle, did we meet the KPI that the advertisers are interested in. So we start with measurement, deterministic impression modeling. What is measurement? Well, it's really knowing who and how many people have seen your ads, right? Relatively simple. For us, we look at every format in its own unique way, and we draw, at StreetMetrics, a viewshed. The viewshed itself is a way for us to understand that individuals or data sets were in exactly the right spot when an advertisement passed by or an advertisement was available for them to see. And in this case, what we've done is created a deterministic opportunity to see. And just to give you clarity about how specific, we are accurate within 1.1 meters. 1.1 meters of where we think somebody is or where we say somebody is in front of an advertisement. Deterministic. And so why? Well, these other categories, television, video, digital, and social, and radio, all are measured channels. When we say measured channels, after the fact of a program or an ad spot running, we are able to, or they're able to quantify who saw it, the demographics, the psychographics of the people that were there. We haven't until yet. And so at StreetMetrics, we're working on that. We're working on outdoor becoming a real-time measured channel. We believe that there's a few things that have held us back that have kept us in this 5% position. One is results, attribution, which I'll get into, but the other is that we can't quantify who was there at the time the ad ran or in front of the ad. And that's something that we need to change. That changes our entire world, if you will, and also now includes us in real-time measured channels. So for us too, and this is for all the transit folks in the audience, and we measure moving vehicles around the world. That's what StreetMetrics does. It's knowing where your vehicle is and whether it's moving or not. And so this is our dashboard. This is a client in New York City, and it's a campaign that you're seeing. The blue lines are where the vehicles have traveled, and the hexagonal skyscrapers, if you will, are where impressions are being delivered. The importance here is if you have routed fleet, so you've got your metro buses that go in and around, you know where they're going to be to some extent, maybe not exactly time-based, but you know where they're going to be on a route. But for a dynamic fleet, so your Ubers, your bikes, delivery trucks, they could be any place in a market at any time. How do you prove to an advertiser that, in fact, the vehicles were out and about, the advertising on the vehicles were out and about, and that impressions were garnered? That's one of the questions StreetMetrics has answered. It's been really critical for those companies that haven't had a way to illustrate where their vehicles are, now to be able to show advertisers and advertising agencies, in fact, that their vehicles are out and garnering impressions. So let's jump to a case study. The recent Super Bowl that was in Phoenix, and because of the way we look at the world as a measured channel, outdoor as a measured channel, we were able to see that over Super Bowl weekend, we had 7 times higher impressions than what was normally happening on average. And then there was an additional 13 million impressions on that one weekend alone. All right, so what? Well, next year for the Super Bowl, we've now created a benchmark that allows the operators in that city, I don't know what the city is, right, to look back at this and be able to show advertisers there is a jump in impressions, which is data-based. There is more people there, and this does a number of things. One, understanding where should advertising be placed to get the most out of the advertising in the market, but then also being able to change your pricing, right? If you know that we've known or assumed that there are more people in a market when the Super Bowl's in town, we now have data that shows exactly that, and quantifiable data, which allows operators in those markets to be able to charge more. Here's another example. This is a really interesting one. Art Prize is a small art exhibit in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right? An Art Basel, if you will, but in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And this area that you're seeing is the area where all the exhibits are. The operator that we were working with assumed that all over would be impressions that could be garnered for their use and for getting advertisers in front of the people that were there. But this is what we saw. In this very specific area, we saw impressions. And didn't entirely understand it, but working with our partner and kind of diving down a little bit deeper into what was happening, when we saw this map, this was the map of the entertainment district where beverages and liquor and alcohol and performances were being kind of consolidated. It made a lot more sense that this is where the impressions were. So the impressions weren't out and about all over the exhibit area, but in this one area. So going into next year, once again, we've created a benchmark. Now they know where to go when they're talking with our advertisers about where to put advertising instead of in places that may not get as many eyeballs or as much foot traffic. And again, to be able to think about pricing in a different way because you know that you've got an area where advertisers are going to meet audience. So now, measurement's our first rung. And one thing I want to add, measurement lets us now not assume, but understand in reality, right, where people are. The next on our trip is attribution. And attribution is, did my ads drive the results that a client is looking for them to drive? And the answer is, my ads drove conversions over a certain amount of weeks. And so this is really where we try to get any one of our partners to. The understanding of the effectiveness of our medium. The fact that we meet KPIs that clients are interested in. And so attribution is knowing the actions your audience took after seeing an ad. It's simple, but it's just really now coming to light and being something that our partners are starting to really look towards. And what we currently do is we can look at exposure to an ad to a website visit, exposure to an ad to an app download or app engagement, or exposure to an ad to an in-store visitation. Really powerful, because with that, we're now able to show the effectiveness of this outdoor medium. And this is, again, clients are asking for this. And so here's an example. A company called Typeform took a campaign with one of our partners, Vector, in Los Angeles. And the results that we saw was a 45% lift in visits to Typeform's homepage for the exposed audience versus the unexposed audience, and 22,000 incremental homepage visits. Again, results that our medium works, and that we're able to show them that money spent in our medium is money well spent. Another campaign for a local New York City fitness company on box trucks, on delivery trucks around the city, was a 33% increase to visits to the gym's free trial webpage, but an 87% lift in visits to the gym's locations for the exposed audience. And maybe the best part of all this was a client renewal. I mean, as we're talking about the results, these results have to be actionable. Media and data for the sake of, or say measurement and data for the sake of just measurement and data isn't anything if you can't make it work for you and you can't make it work for your clients. A client renewal is great for the operator, but more than that, an 87% increase to visits to their locations was amazing for them to see. And so where are we? Well, we're still early in the game, and we're here, I should say. And with the technology that we have available to us now, we still have a lot of growth without any new technology. But new technologies are coming, and as we adopt them, we are just able to climb this ladder even more and more to get to the point where adoption really starts to take shape. And I will tell you that this adoption of data, adoption of metrics, adoption of results allows us to grow our business. Something that we haven't had, I'd say this is all relatively new within the past half decade to decade. And as we adopt these, we will see more business and more money pumped into outdoor. And so a few things that we've learned. There's industry challenges, technological. Can we see enough data? Can we see enough data sets? Do we have enough GPS fidelity? These are things that we deal with on a daily basis as we're all over the world, and every country is a little bit different. There's a learning curve for operators selling with metrics. It's one thing to have your sales folks, for the operators out there, be able to sell a position, a stick in the ground, as I like to call it, and be done with it. When we add metrics to the equation, it's a more complicated sale. There's more knowledge that needs to go into it. There's more discovery that needs to go into it on the client side. But it's worthwhile when you've got a sales force. And I think that most sales forces can be taught how to use these metrics and how to adopt them and how to use them to help the outdoor industry, or specifically your outdoor organization, grow. And then advertiser adoption. I cannot tell you how many ad agencies I've spoken to that do not know that we can do this in outdoor. They do not know that it's possible, that we can attribute exposure to an action. And that's an amazing revelation. With most agencies, ad agencies that I've spoken to, when they recognize that as an outdoor company or as an outdoor industry we can do this, their eyes light up. They love outdoor, but outdoor has been a black box to some extent. we're kind of taking the black box out of outdoor. And I think that's a really big thing for our industry. It's going to be a big thing for your industry and growth as well. And so some client successes, deeper trust in the medium. I think that's one thing that we all need. We want there to be this lack of the black box, if I can go back to that reference. We want advertisers to have transparency. We want them to know where the ads are. We want them to know where people are that are being engaged and where the impressions are being garnered. And so that deeper trust goes a long way. In fact, it's added to growth in ad spend. We're seeing more ad spend from existing clients with our operators that have seen the metrics, have seen the results, have seen the case studies. And that obviously is all good for us as an industry, but it's also good for you individually. And then advertiser expansion, wanting to do more in the outdoor industry. Really important, right? If you've got multiple mediums, one might be the first interest that a client sees or an advertiser sees, but then wants to explore others as we show success. And then renewals. I mean, that's the most important thing. If we can get advertisers to renew because they trust in our industry, they trust in our medium, it's good for everybody. It's good for the agency, it's good for the advertiser, and it's good for you as an operator. So the journey ahead, it's bright for us. It's time to start leveraging metrics to set your organization up for growth. And we believe that adopting metrics, adopting data, and adopting measurement is the way to do it. And I thank you. This was shorter than I thought. You guys are going to get to lunch way sooner than we expected. Are there questions? Are there going to be questions for me?
Well, the questions have come onto an app, sir, and I'm going to now invite Mr. Bhattacharya to kindly join us on stage. He's been walking on as winner. We're so glad. Sir, you were looking at the questions and not asking any of them this time around. Welcome.
He's winning all of them.
So the problem of noting down questions, I miss your presentation. So I'll take it from the OSC organizer to hear you well. So we have got total 47 questions, and I'll forward them. And all of them are very intelligent and interesting questions. And I often wondered that when your transit advertising happens, we face in India that most of the clients ask, how do I track them? Instead of 100, are you putting 50 or 30 or 100? How do I track? So that's a different point. You need to give, that's my question. But here, the first question, let me do my job now. Achin Madan from Times OH. How do you think StreetMetrics will help in analyzing the effectiveness of a marketing campaign at a place like airports?
Airports. So I think we've already accomplished what's more difficult is being able to measure moving vehicles. When we look at a static location, we do exactly the same thing. We want to understand that an individual was in fact in the vicinity where they could really see an ad, and that's the first thing. Very important, right? As opposed to looking at an entire retail location or an airport and assuming that people in the airport saw an ad, which is possibly going to happen, but not necessarily. So I think getting a little more granular that somebody was in fact in front of a format, right, and had the ability to see the ad is where we want to get to. Now, I'll add to that, right? Understanding that a person who was also in front of an ad, but then also reacted in a way or behaved in the way that the client was looking for is really where it ends. So did that person who saw the ad, if it was an ad to drive them to McDonald's, go to McDonald's? Did they download an app? That's where that question gets answered, I think.
So Achin, you can get more on offline with him, okay? The next one. Next one from Hemant Srivastava from Frena Private Limited. How can out-of-home advertising metrics be refined and standardized to provide more meaningful and actionable insights for marketeers to optimize their campaign effectively?
So I think the first thing is adoption. It's adoption from the operators to want to push metrics, want to suggest metrics that are available to their advertisers. And I think it's advertisers taking that leap in, accepting that that's a real opportunity to better their brand placements and better doing what they're doing. I would say you start with benchmarks. You start with one position, and you test it and you see how well it goes, and then you look at other positions.
The last one, my favorite one, Tilkesh Bhatia from Money for Drive. Firefly is a super successful in US. What do you think? Why Indian companies trying taxi top are not able to mark success? And what do you think future of taxi top advertising in India?
I love taxi top advertising. I think it gets in front of everybody. One of the things about moving vehicles is that they get into residential areas as much as commercial areas, and it's a real opportunity there. Once again, I think it is showing the metrics, showing the opportunities that are available with results and measurements, and having agencies look at that as an opportunity to really help their advertisers accomplish what they want to accomplish. I'll add to that once again, attribution. When you can show that any medium, whether it's on a cab or whether it's a static medium in one place, can drive results for the advertiser, that really changes everything.
So now you have to select one out of three. The first one was, how do you think StreetMetrics will help analyzing effectiveness of airport advertising? Second one is, how can out-of-home advertisement metrics be refined and standardized? Okay. And the third one is taxi top.
Which one was yours?
No, I don't want to bias you. Yeah, none of them are my friends. They all are my friends. All 47 of them.
I'm going to go with the Firefly question. That
was a little bit I biased in style.
And the lucky winner is?
Lucky winner is Tilkesh Bhatia, Money for Drive.
You walk on. Congratulations. Let's have the check brought onto stage.
Good question.
You've got one prize up here on stage. This is fantastic. 10,000 rupees going across to you for asking a question. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. This one is brought to you by Alak Advertising and Publicity. Also, we've got awards coming across to you, prizes coming across to you. But right now, a memento is coming across to you, sir. Mr. Bhattacharya, can we please have you do us the honors? Here it is, a beautiful memento. Thank you, Mr. Steinberg, for flying all the way over. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. A little bit of the glitz and glamour of Times Square on stage for us today. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.